Well, I would say before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, sweet fuck all.
Chop wood and get someone else to carry the water.
Yeah.
Well,
Chop
they're
wood,
basically
carry
saying
water, get wrecked.
Yeah, let's go.
I'll be so drunk I won't feel the cold. We ready? And so I'll just give a little introduction. Most people know here what non-duality is. And so I'll just say how it comes here. So non-duality doesn't really exist. I'll say that before we start, because there'd have to be duality for there to be non-duality. It's not something else, or somewhere else, or some other state, or some other thing other than exactly what is now. But what can appear, and what often does appear in the apparent story of a me, is that there is somebody who feels that they are someone living in a body, and that they have a life, that they're born, that they will live, and that they will die. And while they're living, it seems like there's something missing. Because the natural state of reality is not to feel like you are somebody, not to feel that you are separate, that you are sitting on a piece of material under a tree, and that you are separate from everything else. So there seems to be something missing. There seems to be a distance between you and the trees, you and everything else. And there seems to be the appearance of time and a journey. And if in that journey you don't find what you're looking for, then there might be an idea that there is an afterlife or another life or a heaven where you're just going to get it anyway. So there's always this carrot on the stick in front of the donkey that's always moving you forward. And it doesn't matter what kind of teachings you follow, how many women or men you sleep with, how many drugs you take, how many books you read, whatever you seem to do, it always seems to be a temporary fix for something that you just can't seem to grasp. But what's actually being looked for is exactly this. And so some people have a glimpse, not everybody has a glimpse, but sometimes people have a glimpse where there is suddenly a seeing without a seer, with no person there. There's suddenly a seeing that everything is just as it is, that everything is connected, there's no separate person. And then what happens, because it's a glimpse, is the self suddenly comes back again and says, what was that? I want it back again. And so it thinks things like, well, I was being very mindful, I was on a gluten-free diet, I was not drinking that week, or I was really alone, so maybe I should be alone more. And so it tries to recreate this situation, and it might kind of almost grasp that, and it might get little glimpses, and it might start to meditate. And then the other thing that can happen in the apparent journey, and none of this is stage by stage, this is not like a formula, and some people never have the glimpse, is at some point that energy which feels separate, which feels it's in a body, completely collapses, and there's no longer a return of that energy, and there is just what is. And in that, it's seen that that separate self was never there to begin with. It was never there to begin with. So the whole story collapses with that energy. The sense of time collapses. It's kind of, the time seems to appear, but it's in a different way. And then there's just life as it is, like when there was a baby, just looking, just feeling, just seeing, just sensing. And anything can appear. That's not going to look like it's in any special way. It doesn't have to be pain-free or even suffering-free. There can be a suffering with no sufferer. There can be tears. There can be jealousy. There can be anger. There can be anything. It doesn't look like a healed person, but it is a great relaxation for the character and the body-mind. So that's kind of non-duality. That's kind of the introduction. And so now, I'd like everybody to just relax and enjoy themselves, but if you want to ask any questions, you can. And someone's come, he's not bothered about anything, look, he's happy.
I think it's just another place to rest.
No, it's not another place.
People think it's another place to rest. I've been in duality.
And now, yes,
I'll rest there.
now I'll rest there. It's an alternative. For some people it's an alternative. This is the answer that they've been looking for, non-duality. Money sometimes, when the rent's due. Fuck! You know, but yeah, panic. And I did have one panic attack in January, actually. I had a breakup, a bad breakup. And I went to the hairdresser and I thought, I need to get my hair done, I need to just revamp myself, you know. And I went to the hairdresser and I had to leave because the panic just went all over my body. But it was recognised that panic was purely just in the body. Whereas when the me used to have panic, and it had a lot of panic, it was really like, oh no, I don't want this, I have to get away from it, no, I have to stop this, and what have I done to create this, and something has to change, I can't do this anymore. So there was just panic, that's it, I'm leaving. Go and have a cigarette and go to bed, and then it was done. So anything can appear. But yeah, this character, before that apparent collapse, was in a lot of suffering. Yeah. In the story, quite a shit childhood, and some of that patterning's still around. Some of those patterns sometimes still come up.
This is just how we'd be like a
You
dog.
see, that's it. It's just happening.
It's just happening regardless. So we'd be like dogs.
It's too late, it's gone for it.
It's the wonder he's got into the sausages. You better move the sausages.
You better move the sausages.
Yeah,
Don't eat
because he'll
cheese
probably
left.
go on and on and on.
I'm surprised he wants to choose
Sausage. It's probably allergic to sausages.
Probably die.
Yeah.
Sausage
The owner will come over and sue you.
You won't get anything.
Save some for me then.
I'll have some of that quiche now.
Yeah. Quiche with dog saliva.
I'm next.
Anybody?
That's the way I eat my quiche too.
Hi, it's up you. We're enjoying it. Come and join us. Sausages.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Really sorry.
That's alright, he was just doing what dogs do actually. I quite like that. There's a lesson in there, isn't there?
Really sorry.
Do you like the quiche?
She's a little girl, I think.
Oh yeah.
What's her name?
Lily.
Lily, you're
How old is
beautiful.
she?
Look at your paws.
She looks young, doesn't she?
Boundaries.
Well,
There's plenty more. If you want keys, there's a whole one here.
I mean, sometimes I've really felt I just want to be. I don't want to do anything. I just want to exist. I don't want to have to go and get a job. I don't want to have to clean the kitchen. I don't want to. I just want to be out of it all and in the middle of a field, just existing. And I wonder if that's kind of like part of, because the rest is just, I don't know.
That's the
hassle.
seeking. That's the seeking. That's looking for something other than what's happening.
Right, but I feel that I've created what's happening in front of me by thought first. You know, this is how this is what I'm going to put into the mix anyway. So I think of something, I think I fancy doing that. Like, okay, I'll come up on the heat of the day. So that started in thought first, and that happened.
If there's someone there that makes it into a story, and then it appears to be a story. Then it appears to be a story. It appears that there's a desire, and then there's an action, and then there's a result. And that's also what is that appearance of that. But really, there wasn't another time where that desire happened, and then there's a result.
You don't use the word
Also-
ego very much, do you?
No, I never have really.
Spirituality, it's all about the ego.
Yeah. But this is not a spiritual message, so I
Yeah,
don't.
I understand.
Also, the me makes it as if it's its choice. It made the choice, so it's like the choice is made, and then the me claims it as its choice. Whereas really there was no choice. It just happened.
Yeah, it's just what happened. Yeah, with the word ego, it's kind of like, the reason I don't use it is because me uses it, my ego. So there's me, and then there's my ego. So it's kind of almost like a splitting up.
One ego.
Huh?
There's one ego, and in reality there's no ego, but I believe that is separate ego. It's just nonsense, isn't it?
But I even actually point to that people often hear this message and then they start saying the me. That's because they are a me. And that's kind of the same use that ego gets used as. It's the ego. That person is very egoic. And really there isn't a me. Sometimes I might say something that sounds slightly therapeutic. And people say, oh, well, that's for the me. And I'll say it's never for the me, because the me is not there. Anything therapeutic is never for the me, because it's not there. So sometimes people might contact me on a Skype session, they've heard about my apparent anxious past, and then they ask me, what did you do about it? And I said, well, there wasn't anything that anybody could do about it. But apparently it appears that mindfulness helps a lot of people with depression and anxiety. And it appears there are scientific studies. But that is never for the me. That message is never for the me. Because the me is not there. And the me can't do anything about being mindful or not being mindful, or just being aware of what is.
So it's for the body.
It's always for the body-mind.
But the me thinks that that's helping it.
Yeah, it does.
So that's
yeah.
Psychosomatic.
So you can't do anything for anybody. You can't help anybody. But sometimes I might say, well, apparently mindfulness.
That doesn't the fact that it
Coming off sugar seems to help a lot of people. Coming off, you know, if you're having a lot of caffeine, if you're having 5 cups of coffee a day and you've got anxiety, probably if you stop drinking 5 cups of coffee, you might feel a bit calmer. You know, so you could, all these things are therapeutic, really. And either that will sink into the body-mind, or it won't. It doesn't matter. I'm going to have a glass of wine now, I think. What is it? I've got one here as well.
Got some rosé here.
No, I'll have this one. It's Montepulciano. I do like Malbec, but I don't... Anybody want a glass of wine? Look, in a pint glass.
There's still preferences there, isn't there?
Yeah, apparently.
I'm alright, thank you.
Yeah.
My children watch you on YouTube.
Huh?
My children watch.
Do
on
they?
YouTube.
I'm very sorry.
10 and 8.
I bet they're going around swearing, aren't they? And
Yeah, well, they already do it anyway.
do they?
Yeah.
Oh. His children watch me on YouTube. I said, I'm very sorry.
Do they
It's okay.
do they understand? Do they understand?
They understand. I think that the older one kind of, yeah, keeps telling his mom, you know, there's no you, there's no she. There's no me, who's fucking talking to you then? Then it's
How old is he?
10.
10.
I had a 9-year-old boy that came to one of my Milan talks, and he asked the best questions. And he was sat there, this little kid, and he asked questions, and then it kind of sunk in, and then he asked me an even deeper. It really asked some brilliant questions. Yeah.
I guess when you're a child, you still remember
Yeah.
a bit what it was like when everything was just
Yeah.
like, oh,
Because it's like when you were a kid, if you
Yeah.
remember, you had this long summer holiday, a bit like we've had a long summer. You have this long, long summer and you're like playing with your friends, you make this den in nature and you're frying eggs and your friend broke their arm and all this different things happened and you maybe go to your holiday home and you swim in the lake and so many things happen and it's such a long, beautiful summer. And then you get to like late autumn and someone might say, do you remember when you were swimming in the lake? And you go, oh yeah. Because it's all forgotten. I mean, when you're a kid, there's definitely a sense of self. You can see in any, even really young kids, that sense of self really comes in. But it seems a lot less, even when you're a kid. That magic of childhood is what this is. This is magic. This is magic.
I can always, you know, when I was 8, I used to live next to a massive playing field, and this was in the 60s, and all the kids played on the field, and the teenagers as well. And there was a sense of oneness with us all. I've never had that feeling before or since. And I've been in gangs of people that I feel I'm connected to, but it's never been the same. And I always think, I've thought about writing about it, I'd call it the field. And it's like, I just remember running around and I felt like, it was like there wasn't me. It was like a big connection of love. I can't explain it. But I don't feel the joy I felt then.
all right.
After liberation, is there a sense of that, like a return to that, or does time
It
slow at all?
Yeah,
Is there
time's
isn't
different.
time?
Time's definitely different, yeah. Because everything just seems very immediate.
And when your memory views it over a longer period, does it feel longer?
No.
Still.
Sometimes there's a longing for things that apparently happened in the past. There can be a longing. That was a beautiful time, if I could just be there, or that I just, it was so nice, or... But then it's not reliable. The memory of anything is not reliable. So it's kind of, and it's not seen as real. But that dream of, I wish I could go back and walk there or something, that sometimes arises. But there's no attachment to it. It doesn't, there isn't anything that depends on whether that happens or not. What were you going to say?
Does it not come in also? There's no possibility?
Yeah, there's no possibility. Yeah, it's gone. Yeah. Yeah. What the me tends to do a lot of is it tries to recreate the good times, doesn't it? Tries to recreate something that was really good, that felt like heaven, and then it tries to recreate it. Drug addiction, or you always want that same hit, or you always want that same... Sometimes people break up with someone and then they go looking for the same type of person, or they look for someone who looks like that person, and they try to get that kind of same feeling back.
Is that wrong?
No. I said to a friend actually recently, Rob, I said, if there was a big shootout on this road and it was like all cornered off and we were like hostages, and this room was full of people, women with children and all those kinds of things, I'd probably volunteer to walk over the road, because I mean, obviously I might be frightened, but I would do it. If someone said someone has to go, I would probably say I'll just do it. Because there is just that feeling of, even if there was a bullet through me, it would be alright. It wouldn't be alright, but it would be alright at the same time. Whereas before, I would have been like screaming in that room, I don't want to be here, and yeah.
Unbelievable.
So there's something fearless. And people asked me when I was in the earthquakes 2 years ago. Like, what was that like, you know? Because obviously there was fear, but not like fear of death. That the fear of death goes, because this is death. I mean, it's very obvious that this is death, and therefore there's no fear of that at all. But how you might die, how, you know, I wouldn't want to be underneath this tree for 2 hours while the ambulance came, and then I shit myself, piss myself, start choking on my own blood, and someone gives me a last glass of wine and I'm like, I feel so shit, it's unbelievable, you know.
So the suffering would stop.
So in the earthquakes there was a great fear of being trapped under concrete for many hours. Didn't want to do that. No.
I asked somebody recently the same question, someone who was liberated, someone where liberation had happened, if there was a preference for life or death. And they said not really.
No, because it just doesn't matter. If there's a preference for life or death, and there isn't. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've never been to Hawaii and I want to go there. That would be really nice. And I definitely want more sex. I enjoy smoking, and I'd quite like to be old. Even when I was a kid, I've always wanted to be old, like an old woman, you know, and be really wise and grandmotherly. But if this body died in the next minute, I wouldn't be, there would be no awareness of whether it's died or not, that's the thing. But if someone said to me, Ella, you're going to die in a minute, I'd probably cry about it and think, oh, what a shame, you know, would like to do a few more things, but then it just wouldn't matter. It just doesn't matter at all.
Which is, I guess, why people talk about the me doesn't want liberation,
because it is the death of the apparent, it's an apparent death.
But actually there isn't death.
What dies is an illusion.
Well, the body dies, doesn't it? The body goes to...
Not really. It appears to. Not really. It appears to live. It appears to be alive.
Break it all down into string theory and that, there's nothing there. Empty space.
Yeah, it's just empty.
It's just perception.
Yeah.
When there was an apparent me, it felt like this body was really alive. It felt like there was a body and it was really alive and it was something. And now it's no different. It's seen as no different from that.
Is that disappointing?
No.
Not even a part of you remembers what it used to be like.
Huh?
You don't remember what it used to be like. You just haven't.
Yeah, it felt like shit.
Lisa Ken said something the other day about movement, and she used the example of an arm when it's like this, and then when it's like that. The only reason you know that it's moved is because of memory.
Yeah.
So I remember it was there, and then there's this.
Yeah, quantum physics says nothing is actually moving.
Yeah, it's not. Because everything is this.
Yeah,
it doesn't have a purpose. It's not going anywhere. It's not coming from anywhere. It's not. It just is this. So that actually nothing is happening. People often say, "What do you mean nothing's happening?" Because everything is it. Therefore, there isn't anything else. So where could it move to? Where could anything change? If everything is it, it's only an appearance that there's a quiche and then there's a glass of wine.
Yeah, so there's an
Therefore, that isn't happening, yet it appears to happen.
Here and you're swinging your arms around.
Well, there's an apparent quiche and an apparent wine, but nothing is happening. Because it's the same thing.
Nothing ever happened.
Yeah, but if you say nothing ever happens, and that's still someone trying to observe it. Really, there's just nothing happening, and no one cares about it. Who cares? Yeah.
Do you think we'd have global peace if we were all liberated?
No. No.
The fact that we have duality and non-duality is you can't call it a mistake or not a mistake, it just is.
We don't have duality and non-duality.
No, I know it, but in the words of humans, they like to put themselves into boxes. I'm this, I'm this, I'm this.
Oh, I think that I don't actually think that anything would be any different if suddenly that illusion dropped. If suddenly worldwide everybody there's just this, I don't think things would be really any different at all.
Well, maybe.
I think there'd still be murder, I think there'd still be paedophilia, I think there'd still be atom bombs, everything, because all of it's happening without anybody there anyway.
But there would be less anxiety, and there would be less, perhaps,
Mental
maybe
health.
grasping for things that you think would bring you happiness, maybe. You know, Donald Trump might decide he wanted to take a walk in the park instead of being president. I doubt it. But
Who knows? We don't
with
know.
that relaxation, there could be some difference.
I think Donald Trump looks quite relaxed.
It's the rest of everyone, isn't it?
He's the accidental Buddhist.
I think he's,
Isn't it?
you know, I mean, people go on about people like Donald Trump.
He's an asshole, but
And I think he's a natural
accidental
arsehole.
Buddhist. Yeah.
He's a natural arsehole. If he is an arsehole, he's a natural. Sometimes he is a bit of an arsehole. But he's a very
of the
natural
day.
arsehole. And I quite like him. It seems just himself. The character seems quite relaxed about things. I'm not that bothered about him.
I like him.
This is the thing, you know. People say, obviously, the original people in the story of the separate thing say that you don't care anymore because you don't see anything wrong with it. You don't see there's wrong in wars or rape or killing or it's no different from taking your child for a walk in the park or giving them a birthday party, you know. And so they're never going to understand the idea that there's someone there to understand that you're saying that everything in the world is what it is. And there's no differences because there's nothing there.
No, but I'm not saying that everything in the world is as it is, because there's not seen that there is a world. So the me hears this message and it says, oh well, that means animal cruelty and gang rape in the Republic of Congo and all those things is just what's happening. No. I mean, if it appeared that someone was being gang raped here, I'd knife the bastards to death. You know, or if I caught somebody interfering with a child, you know.
But at the same time,
But there is no world. There is no world. There's this big idea that there's something wrong with the world, and that completely drops. This idea that there's something wrong with the world. What's wrong with the world is that there's something wrong with me. You get all these people that spend hours and hours and hours looking at conspiracies, or they get really into feminism, or they get really into being liberal, and all these people are being bad, and you know, that's what's wrong with my world. My world. So when there's something wrong like that in the world, it's something wrong in your world. Your world doesn't feel right. So when it's so obvious that all there is this, there is no world. There's no world. Where is the world?
in your mind.
I don't have a mind.
So what's speaking?
Nothing.
So what am I hearing? Nothing.
Nothing, and there's no one there to hear it.
That might be the ultimate truth, but that's my experience.
It's not an ultimate truth, no.
Right, and what is it?
Nothing.
Nothing can't be explained, can it?
No.
So this is why people get frustrated?
Apparently. But I don't care.
Yes, but you've already so-called liberating, whatever.
No, I'm not liberated.
Well, the idea that there's someone there, was someone.
There's no idea here that there was ever anybody anywhere.
Yeah, but that wasn't always your experience. The experience of that.
There never was an experience. There never was. There never was
Yeah, but
someone
what's the
who had an
memories then?
experience. There was only an appearance of someone who had an experience. So how reliable is that?
You still have memories of what you was before.
Not really. No, I don't know actually. That's a presumption. I can't really remember what it was like to be apparently a me.
Well, I've heard you speak about the past.
But how reliable is it?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
No.
it's coming from your mouth, not mine.
It's not reliable.
Well, why speak to it?
There is no why.
Why is the past not reliable, Ella?
Because, can you tell me, word for word, with absolute detail, how we got here today? You can't remember it. You might have some memory of it, but then
Well, it's quite fresh.
Eileen might tell me a completely different version.
Yeah.
Somebody else.
Yeah. So none of us can say that that definitely happened that way, so we're all fucked. We're absolutely fucked when it comes to memory.
Also, scientifically, you recall different information
Yeah,
only in this moment,
yeah.
and you recreate the memory now rather than as it was remembered at the time.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
But that's just
and also you add things, you take away things.
It's probably quite difficult to take everything in, isn't it? You're generally filtering it through my eyes, yeah, my experience.
But none of it happened anywhere.
With you, Ella, there's no sense of time, is there? Real time.
Not real time, no. That's
So when
really
could a memory
obvious
have happened?
once
When
the
could it
collapse
have happened?
happens. Huh?
Memories can only happen in time.
Yeah,
It can only be recorded.
yeah,
There's no time.
yeah.
So you don't know what.
And because of that, there's a hell of a lot of forgetfulness here. I think we've discussed a few times on the phone that when you go out of the apartment, it's like there's never been an apartment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, I suddenly get a
Yeah.
view, like up here, there's somewhere, Parliament Hill, I think. You can suddenly see centre of London, and I think, oh, I'm in London. I forget. And when I moved to Italy, every now and again I was like, I'm in Italy! Quite often, you know.
You've got to remind yourself.
It's great when you've got a hot boyfriend. You wake up in the morning and you go, where did you come from? Yeah.
Toiletry.
You know, always, it's kind of like there is a newness in everything.
Every day is different.
Every instant, even if you can break it down to an instant.
Is this the kind of what people would say going with the flow?
No,
Is that something different?
it's something different.
Okay.
But it is like a free falling of energy, I guess.
Yeah.
People do feel better when they just go with the flow.
Yeah.
Like now, we're all going with the flow, aren't we? We're just having a nice time, having a bit of wine, we're relaxing, it's a beautiful
came
day,
in.
there's no challenges really.
The dog came
The
in.
dog came,
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's too hot, we're in the shade. You know, we're all kind of just going with the flow and it feels good. But what this is much more freer than going with the flow. They're not the same though, but they taste similar, don't they? Yeah, but
not like they used to
they've
be.
changed. Why have they changed?
And that, in my memory, does serve me well. The wagon wheel was as about as big as your hand.
It was, and it
now
had
it's
more
smaller
jam
than
in it.
Rob
I never liked it.
Some people say that's something called the Mandela effect, don't they?
Ella?
Have you heard of that? I'm okay, thank you.
And that is
Have you heard of the Mandela effect?
Yes.
Who's heard of it over this side?
What's that?
The Mandela effect. The Mandela, you tell it.
Reality. So
They had to take the
it's the idea that reality, the consensus reality that we're living in, has actually changed. So people have memories. So a good example is Sex in the City. Some people think it was sex in the city, some people think it was sex and the city. And apparently at some point it changed. There's even bits in the Bible which have changed, apparently.
And it all comes from Mandela. People thought he died in 1991.
Yeah.
Huge amounts of people, even in South Africa, think that he died in 1991. But he died much later, apparently.
He died on the 5th of December.
Yeah.
That's my birthday, I always remember that.
But then huge amounts of people think that he died in 1991. And then things like, I always remember Bragg's cider vinegar.
Yeah.
But apparently it's Bragg. So, my point is people have made a huge conspiracy out of that everything's changed, that Coca-Cola used to have a dash between it, now it hasn't. You know, all these things. And I think it's actually just that people are noticing that they remember things differently from what they are.
We've all argued.
I've always called it Bragg's cider vinegar.
Yeah, I do. Right.
But it is apparently always been Bragg.
What was that thing on the internet, Laurel or Yanni? Do you remember that? It was like how was it pronounced Laurel or Yanni? And like everyone in the world was saying, how is it pronounced? And it's just a word, but people perceived it differently.
Yeah,
well, that
exactly.
dress, do you remember the dress? Some people said it was blue, some people said it was gold. Like,
How can you get mixed up between blue and gold?
It's uncanny, come and look at it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Can you get mixed up between
So
blue and gold?
it just kind of proves
turquoise,
how people really remember things differently.
Yeah, get into major arguments. I've done it with my family. No, it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
Yes, I can remember you saying. I said, no, I didn't.
My brother seems to have this memory that I took my piano out onto the street and played it for money.
Of course you did. That sounds about right.
No, I can't remember anything to do with that.
Yeah,
But
I've
what
seen
a
a
cool
video.
thing to do.
No, you have not.
You made a load of money and went over to Italy.
No, but it's funny, isn't it?
So why do we as the human race have to have spirituality then?
What's that?
Spirituality. As the human race, we form like spiritual cliques, don't we? The Christians, the Muslims, pagans. Why do we have to have this? Why do we do this?
Well, it all stems from...
The I wanting to better itself.
Yeah, and for looking for something else. And essentially, spirituality is kind of like the same thing as psychic or anything like that. It's other, something outside of yourself. And so spirituality is always something outside. So the me really thrives in spirituality. I always think spiritual seekers are the most desperate seekers. Because if you talk to ordinary people, they don't want anything to do with spirituality. And so when people get into spirituality, it's like the most desperate part of seeking. People will do anything in spiritual circles to try and get something.
But we do say there's been people that have walked on the planet that have been offering the human race some, I'm going to say the word, enlightenment, like Jesus and other kind of...
But again, they're memories and their stories. And so, how reliable are they? And if you look at so-called living saints now, like Mother Amma, apparently she's brutal to people behind the scenes.
I've heard that, actually. I've had a hug from her, actually.
So with people in the past, we can really kind of make them into something wonderful. But we don't know what they were like, even who they were.
I often think about lineage as well. You know, in spirituality, it's like, oh, I need the lineage. But that's gone out the window with this message. Because what's the lineage? Like, do I need a lineage? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's always talked about, oh, it's really important to have a good lineage. Because I used to practice Zen and all that. Oh, yeah, but he's got a really good lineage. And now I kind of think, how does that change anything? Does this need a lineage?
I've had people in India contact me and say, you're amazing, like you're so amazing the way you speak and everything, but you need a master because you need a lineage.
Right.
And you'll never be taken serious until you're under another guru that then endorses you.
But you know what? I've always thought, I mean, this could be wrong, and I'm sorry, I'm using the I. Karen's always, I'm my own guru. I've always felt that. I've actually always felt that. I know I'm using the I here, but yeah. Somebody said to me, you know, that you have to be a certain type of person to follow a guru. Somebody once said that to me. It's always remained with, you know, in my thoughts.
Rich.
Yeah, you've got to be rich for some of them, haven't you? Rich, yeah.
Yeah.
I went to see a guru just because I was given a free ticket somewhere, and the guy never smiled once. And I thought, well, if that's enlightenment, I'd rather be here waiting to get a curry takeaway with a few friends after this.
Is there any thoughts about?
No.
Okay. People like Moochie.
Or Guru Maharaji. Do you know him? Never smiles.
Well, when I was a seeker and I watched people like that and I saw people kissing his feet and stuff like that, that just immediately turned me off.
There's everywhere he goes, he always gets a huge crowd.
Yeah, because he's offering something to people.
Desperate seekers. And you don't offer nothing.
No. If I did, I'd make a lot more money. That's really clear.
Yeah.
If I started to offer something, I would make a lot of money.
And you don't feel like pretending.
Sometimes I think, wouldn't it be nice to make a lot of money, and maybe I should offer people something? And I've even thought perhaps of bringing more therapy into my talks, but every time I attempt to do it, this message just comes out as brutal.
Yeah, it is quite brutal.
And sometimes I do think that it does seem to be currently, this is all apparent, that 99.9% of the apparent population are self-identified. And it seems to be that most people, that's how it's going to be till the body-mind dies. So sometimes I sort of think, well, maybe I should offer to sort of like say, you know, it's just this, guys, just be in the moment. But if I say that, it's just so obvious that there's no moment. So it always goes back, the message always goes back to there's no one to be in it, there's just this.
You could write a book, because you're from Yorkshire, you could write a book called The Power of Nout.
The power of no.
The power of nout.
No, we say note.
Yeah, I'd say now.
You say nout.
Now, from
People often
Lancashire.
say Lancashire for Yorkshire.
And people often say Yorkshire for Lancashire.
Yeah, they do. They
Say
think it's a.
Lancashire. You probably go Yorkshire.
We're note, you're nout.
I'm now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're now. It's different. We know.
And I lived on the border of Yorkshire, so I used to hear, I always used to know if there was someone from over the border, because we'd say, are you going round to the pub tonight? And the Lancashire people would say, are you not going round to the pub tonight? So it was slightly different, but we knew, are you not going round to, aren't you going round? So it was slightly different, but quite obvious, really. Yeah, nout and note is quite different.
It's different now. We'd say nout. Yeah, you say nout. Nout. That's different.
And alright and alright.
Alright.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah.
Where's the car from here?
I've got a swarm of wasps, I think.
You know, I watched you a lot on the video. For whatever reason. It cracked me up. You have a style, you're looking at a style that's completely different from all the other non-duality.
Speakers, I'm not a teacher, don't I?
Quite brutal, as you say. And you do things that are quite crazy.
Such as?
Well, they're not really.
Do we need to repeat
You
it?
know, I've watched her with other people who don't know nothing. They think, oh, this woman's not very nice. She says things, she does things, she acts like this. This is what I expect somebody talking about.
Because that's the guru thing, isn't it? They're supposed to be holier than thou. And
Yeah, that's why I've attributed something
I sometimes do it a bit on purpose. Sometimes I kind of do things on purpose because I want to kind of just show this is what's happening.
Right, so we can do things on purpose then.
Huh?
We do things on purpose.
Apparently. Yeah.
Just check.
So you also say, I remember, that the non-duality crowd in London really not taking to it because of your antics.
Oh, what's wrong with them?
Well, I sometimes say that, I don't think I said the non-duality crowd, because this is the non-duality crowd,
Yeah, I know.
and beyond. But I haven't been invited to speak anywhere.
Yeah.
But then, that seems to be quite a common pattern with women non-duality speakers, and I don't know why that is. I personally think it's because a woman's energy is seen as more nurturing, and this message is it's more Kali-like, it's very brutal. And so I think they see a reasonably good-looking woman, and they don't see a nurturing energy that goes with that, and therefore they think it kind of is a bit dangerous, which it is.
I find it very funny.
Well,
I mean, especially when you get going with the F's and the B's and the S's.
I said you were the Johnny Rotten of non-duality.
who said that? Did I?
Well, actually,
I can't remember.
no, it's got to be a female.
Did I say?
Be like, she's got to be a female from that era, not Johnny Rotten. He's a man.
He's a
The
breath
Slits,
seeker.
yeah. Or Susie from the Banshees, yeah. Polystyrene, God rest her soul. But you know, like if there is a God, you know. That,
I don't mind being Johnny Rotten. No, that's fine.
okay.
Good.
I mean, there's nobody doing it. It's just coming out, yeah?
Yeah. From nowhere. It's not really coming out, but yeah.
You still have a person that there seems like there's a personality still, right? Type personality.
A character, I would
Yeah,
say.
character. But, and that character that's coming from your character, the idea of you have a character.
Yeah.
Why you come out with these words in the way you come out. But I mean, there's nothing.
It only appears that I come out with things, but I really don't think about it.
Yeah, I can tell. I mean,
Silence.
that's not bad. I like it because you don't.
But then other people would think I'm quite manipulative and calculated.
Yeah, they do.
Really?
Former boyfriends.
I think some men
Former
think I am.
boyfriend.
A lot of men.
Past boyfriends probably will say.
Yeah, my ex-boyfriend would definitely say I'm
Yes.
manipulating,
The latest
calculating, very clever. He thinks that my natural flirty personality is kind of like I need to be loved and I'm doing it all on purpose, and it's just the way I am.
And what's wrong with that anyway?
It's just the way I am.
But the way you are is lovely because you're just spouting out what a lot of non-dual teachers would not. They wouldn't be as honest as you.
No.
Mind you,
I guess I think it's a combination. I'm apparently autistic, apparently from Yorkshire. They're very upfront.
Yeah.
mind you, if you were a man, it would be easier.
Yeah,
If you were a man, it would be
guy,
alright. You'll
if
be
I was a
fine.
guy,
You'll be just
then they
fine.
would just say it's just a guy.
Is it
But because I'm a
eccentric?
girl,
I can see
but
that.
I think that's probably more autistic because autistic women usually are a bit more like guys in the way that they're just very upfront.
I think I can do.
Well, that's funny because you said you were in the spectrum of autism, and I don't see it. But
No, because I'm recovered from it.
I mean, I
Because
know,
when I was a
I know
kid,
boy was
I was
right.
classically autistic.
Really?
Yeah,
Big-
when I say
big
that I'm
time.
autistic, people think that I'm Asperger's, and I'm not.
Yeah.
I was classically autistic, and I came out of autism, which is really rare.
No, yeah.
It's very rare for that to happen.
Through techniques, to
No, it
things
just
that-
happened.
It just happened.
I remember thinking, I have to speak.
Yeah.
I couldn't, thought I didn't want to speak, I couldn't speak. It was like my brain wouldn't connect.
Oh, shit.
And so I remember thinking, speak, speak, speak. If you don't speak, you're going to be in your own world forever and everybody's going to decide things for you and it's going to be horrible.
When did you come out of?
I think it was
autism?
quite gradual. But I kind of remember, I couldn't hold eye contact till I met my first boyfriend when I was 19.
19.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think it was a very gradual thing.
So did your total discredit and disappearance of your me happen gradually as well? Or was
No,
like
it was
a
very quick.
sudden
Yeah.
guillotine like?
There was a kind of deepening
Yeah.
after, but it was very quick. Yeah.
Was there a moment? Was it?
Yeah, that's.
I remember being sat on the chair. Yeah. I sat on this chair. I was living really quite isolated. And it felt like a nightmare. It wasn't the worst time in my life, but it felt like everything came together and it was horrible. And I sat on this chair every single day and I looked out the window and I looked, it's a bit like this view now, and I looked at trees and the seasons would change and everything would change, and I was always looking. And I remember feeling so alone and so isolated and so someone suffering. And when, I think it was about 18 months later, after a whole apparent journey, I just remember thinking that there isn't anyone there to die. Now I'd heard that loads, I'd heard it loads, I watched Tony's videos over and over and I'd heard it loads, but it's never really been heard. And suddenly it was heard that there's not going to be the death of me, there's not going to be this goodbye Ella and it's all over. There was never going to be that. And there was just sort of a recognition that that had never been there. And I kind of remember crying and laughing. I don't know though, this is all memory, I don't know. And I remember going to the toilet and thinking, water's coming out of this body, that's amazing. And I went to the market and I remember just thinking, there is just nothing else but this, it's just so obvious.
So in your story, it sounds like it was sort of a gradual, in the story, a gradual sort of
In the
erosion and then
seeking, yeah, because I was very isolated and I'd had this really powerful glimpse. And that glimpse kind of gave me hope. I suddenly had a purpose to life. And I suddenly had this reason. Suddenly the reason to live was to get back to that place. And I had no reason to live anymore. And I was trying to be very mindful because I felt like if I wasn't mindful I was going to kill myself. And then this glimpse happened and suddenly I had a reason to live because I'd had a taste. And I'd had glimpses before, but this was like, it seemed bigger, it seemed more important. And suddenly I had this reason to really live. And so that's when I started watching, I didn't watch Muji to start with, I watched Gangaji. She took about 2 months out of my apparent life before I realised something. And then I moved on to Muji, that lasted about 2 days. As soon as someone kissed his feet, I thought, bullshit, move on. And then I think I came then to, can't remember, I think probably Lisa Cairns. And then she mentioned Tony Parsons and I thought, I'm going to check out Tony Parsons. And when I got to Tony Parsons, that was it. He was talking about everything that just felt like what he was saying. Everybody else seemed to be beating around the bush and adding all sorts in, and he just seemed to be saying things as they were. And he described the glimpse. I didn't understand the whole liberation thing. And so I spent another 6 months watching him. Like every day, all the time. I was obsessed, constantly watching one Tony Parsons after the other, repeated them, trying to get it. I phoned him a couple of times. I was living just 5 miles down the road from him, which was funny, I didn't realise it at the time. And then I gave up, and I said, it's all bollocks, I've got into something else called non-duality. And I think it was a few days after, and I just realised if there's really no one there, then there's never going to be anything that's ever going to happen to anybody because no one's there. But that sounds like a story, and it isn't, because I can't even really remember it.
When you talk about the glimpses, little glimpses before that, were they more like recognitions, realizations?
I remember when I was a kid, I don't know, I remember lying there and I really suffered as a kid. I was very alone, always alone. I remember lying there, I remember just looking and suddenly seeing that everything was beautiful, incredibly beautiful. And then it would go again and I'd think, what was that, you know?
So it's, in retrospect, thinking about those memories, you're able to put them more in context now. The experience in the story is related to after liberation.
No, it just feels like it doesn't have anything to do with it. But looking back, there's kind of a feeling of emotion and how someone apparently suffered and how somebody really wanted something, and looking back, it's kind of sad, but it's really beautiful. You know? What a lost little fucker I was. You know, it's really sad. But it's beautiful because it's just a whole story and a joke and an apparent memory, and it doesn't mean anything, but it really meant something to me.
Looking back, does it seem like it never happened?
No, doesn't seem like it's real at all. Because it isn't really.
Pops up in the brain.
Yeah. But then all that emotion and feeling and, you know.
I've heard you describe that all there is this love. This is just unconditional love.
Yeah.
How's that? It's not the love of I love someone or I love my dog or is it all of it?
Well, I would say it's unconditional love because anything can appear.
So with anything appearing, it's an acceptance when it's an appearing. Is that, look, you were saying like unconditional love and not trying to fight it. It just appears, then is that unconditional love? Because as long as the I is away and it doesn't fight it.
Oh, thank you. Well, the I has a condition on what appears. I will love you, but if I see you fucking the girl next door, I'm going to break up with you. That's a condition. Huh? Yeah.
So if everything's unconditional love,
Huh?
if everything that we presume is happening is unconditional love, that means everything is unconditional love. The idea of everything, like the war, is unconditional love.
Abuse of a child.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, an atom bomb or a hug is the same thing. It's the same thing.
But there's a different effect on the body-mind though, isn't there, with an atom bomb?
Only apparently. Thank you.
See, I think this...
Huh?
I said an atom bomb or a hug, I love it.
Well, it's the same thing, isn't it? So anything can appear in it. That's why, you know, people say to me, well then why? You know, if everything is unconditional love, why do we have paedophiles and all these terrible things, and you know, and it's because it's unconditional love, because it can be anything.
Well, people have an idea what love is, don't they?
So does that... Beg your
And they
pardon,
don't
go
think
on.
that love is anything that makes their body mind suffer.
Yeah.
A moral compass though, you know, is there a moral compass within us? Because we're not all going to go out
No.
with it. So does this give us permission to do anything we want?
No, because you're not there and there's no permission. Which is even worse, isn't it? It's even worse.
And Ramesh Balsekar talks about you will only do what you're going to do anyway, your conditioning or your character will only do what it's going to
But
do.
he used to say
So
the movies
you wouldn't go out
in
and
the
kill
camp.
someone.
I might, somebody's coming at a knife with me and I had a knife.
Well, self-defense.
Self-defense.
You wouldn't walk over and kill somebody because
No,
that's
I
not your
wouldn't plan
character.
to do anything like that. Up to now anyway.
So with that freedom, you still wouldn't do that.
Now people say that was out of character for them. That was out of character.
Basically, I used to think the script was written because you said the movie's in the can, right? So that means it's already over and it's already been done and now it's finished. But we still think it's happening because we're still in time.
Yeah. It's like Calvinism.
Yeah, but
isn't
that's
it?
coming very much from an awareness consciousness point of view. No one cares about any of that.
I see it really that this character's being played as this character, and so far it hasn't like committed a murder. And it's possible, but it's not really within the character, and within another character that's being played to be a murderer or whatever. And so then you've got a parent
I think
society
this character would definitely kill in certain situations.
Yeah.
If I had to defend my mother,
Yeah.
or if I had a child, I'd definitely stab someone to death.
If your life was threatened. I sometimes think.
But yeah, I know what you mean. I don't feel like, "Ooh, maybe this weekend I should stab someone to death," you know. And that does arise, doesn't it, in some characters? Ooh,
And then there's
you know,
that we're
it
all
does arise
capable.
though, doesn't it?
That'll make me feel better.
Does it arise like maybe this week I should make a baby?
Yeah,
Well, see how that, yeah.
I should make a baby.
Or
yeah.
practice.
Let's make
Or
a
try
few.
to make a baby.
Let's make a few. Yeah, of course, yeah. Things like the desires.
Well, it's like when we were talking about Donald Trump, you know, I think
He's
the
an
reason he
asshole.
doesn't really touch me.
No, he's all right.
fucking
He's
No,
all
the reason,
right.
because I'm probably not got a lot of those traits. I think the people that really dislike him, they've got those traits in themselves. They see
I
that in
don't.
themselves.
I'm not a cunt.
I don't know. But they can't explain
There'd
why.
be another president along soon enough, wouldn't there? They come and they go.
Yeah, they come and go, yeah. Just come and go, like all politicians, they come and go.
I don't think
I
by
think he's
smart,
all
I suppose.
right. He's all right. I don't care though. I don't
It
care.
doesn't really affect my life anyway, you know, I look at that as well. These politicians are not affecting my life in any way.
So Ella, what do you think about consciousness and awareness?
I didn't know your
I don't
life,
think
you know.
about it, but I used to.
So they don't exist.
Consciousness and awareness. Well, the only awareness and consciousness is the fact that there's apparently something moving around here. If it gets any hotter, there might be unconsciousness. And there is awareness in the body mind because it's sensory aware. But what the self does is it attaches an idea that there's a super consciousness or a super awareness because it feels that it is something that's aware and conscious, that there must be a higher version of consciousness because this version of conscious awareness doesn't feel good, so there must be a better version of it. That's all it is. It's a big made up story about how I can connect to a universal consciousness out there and be everything and have everything and know everything and get everything.
So many of them still speak of the only thing that is happening is consciousness, awareness.
Because all that's happening there for them is consciousness and awareness. A rather bloated, supersized version, but that's all it is. If all that the me can do is expand its consciousness into everything, it's fucked. Because there isn't anything. It's a made up. It's like a made up story. Let's play house. I'll be the mummy, you be the daddy. It's just a story.
And you can never really experience consciousness. You can only think about it.
You can think it's just an idea, yeah.
It's the same about
It's the same about non-duality. It's another idea.
and the idea that you've got a brain.
It's a thought about.
Yeah, where is the brain? I can't see a brain anywhere.
It's just a thought. The thing, just thinking.
You said something like that. Where is the bones? Where is the?
How do you, like for instance, I've come from Cambridgeshire. Right now, where is Cambridgeshire? It's just a memory.
Yeah,
There's no Cambridgeshire.
and all our families, because they're not here.
Yeah, and
So
all
what
there
we've
is
got
this
now-
my so-called...
No, you don't even have
this
now.
theatre.
All there is
Just this. Now is a very narrow moment in time that you think you are in.
So narrow. I was watching a bike go down the hill a few weeks ago, and I was looking at going past, and I was thinking, well, is the moment when it's there or there, and the wheels were spinning really fast, and the spokes were blurred, or is it like a micro movement at each
Yeah,
spoke?
when is the now? And where would you stand to know it?
Well, there is no now, really. There's no such thing as time and space. You need it. There's not even a word you can use, is there? Not even the word instant.
No, definitely not. I quite often say everything is immediate or instant, and it sounds like it's a now, but it isn't.
And when people say once,
Yeah, it is. It implies that there is a non-oneness. But even non-duality implies that there's non-duality.
you see, that's what I find different about you, because most of other non-dual speakers, especially...
Oh look, there's a drunk wasp.
Is it?
Yeah, he's gone.
They don't want to go beyond non-duality. They don't want to go beyond awareness. They want to stay there. But you chuck it all in the trash. That's what I like. No bullshit.
What next then? The pub. That pub down there is really nice.
Come on, Ella.
There's no pub, but it might
But
appear.
it might appear, yeah.
Freemasons. Freemasons where
We could go to the Freemasons. We didn't go there. Well, there's that one there, but actually the Freemasons might be nicer. That one just by the Hampstead. Yeah, it's quite nice. But the Freemasons is nice on a Sunday.
Stay up a little bit longer.
I might have to move. You might need to refocus the camera. Have one. Can you catch?
The tea cakes.
Yay! Well
They
done.
are soft.
I'm not going. I'm just putting a few things in because we've got a wasp today going on. Is it nice still though?
It's nice because it's things I like marshmallow.
To you, in 2017, this
So you said you want to do some regular talks.
Yeah, I'd love to do. And people keep asking me if I'll do regular talks, and I do love it. I don't know why there is a love of talking about this, but there is.
Yeah, I noticed you went back to doing Thursday again.
Yeah, sometimes I say I'm not going to do Thursdays. Thursdays you should expect I don't always do them, but Monday I feel is more definite.
Yeah, it's interesting how some people after Liberation still go to other talks like Tony.
Yeah.
I was listening to a guy called John Greven recently. I've never heard him before.
No,
he went for him. There was no interest afterwards in reading or really talking about it.
Yeah.
He did do some interviews, but not many.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on
Yeah, I know
character again.
people where that apparent collapse has happened and there's no desire to talk about it.
Then there's no choice, isn't it?
Yeah, it just either happens or it doesn't.
It's all right, generally.
But yeah, it's nice to go to Tony. I never went to Tony when I was a seeker.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and then I went, and it's nice because it's just nice to be with all you guys. Really?
Yeah,
I do. I'll be honest with you. I get a bit bored in terms of everybody else is like, what does it mean? Maybe that's.
Yeah.
But I mean, I really enjoy it, and sometimes what he says, I'm like, oh, that's such a beautiful expression. But I get a bit bored. I kind of just look forward to like being with everybody because it's really nice. And there is an apparent difference, I do feel, hanging around with you guys. You know, if I just went to the pub with a load of other people, there is something. Yeah. We're all very relaxed, aren't we? There's something where it's just eat really easy, and I like that. I do. Yeah.
And allowing the madness to be.
Yeah, everybody's just themselves. It's very natural. Yeah, and I love that. That's really, really lovely.
It's like being kids then.
It's like being kids, yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's just playing, really. It's like going out to play.
Yeah, it is. It's like playtime.
I love it.
Kids with us.
Yeah. Worse. That's wrong.
I think I'm in it.
Aren't you? You're sitting in there.
Move over there.
Move further forward.
Forward.
Yeah, it's behind you.
Go in here.
Yeah. I don't think. Just stop.
Yeah, just stop. Maybe raise.
That's better.
Like some water.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you, Ruth.
It's nice and clean.
I enjoyed that. Sorry.
Jesus God, Rufus, you don't know how lucky you are that Ella broke the bottle, not you broke it. Because I will blame you forever, Rufus. I'm just telling my son that he's lucky that you broke the bottle, not him, because I'll never forgive him. Oh, look.
Yeah.
How was your childhood, Ella?
Shit.
Shit like in a Yorkshire, old Yorkshire way, like Monty Python, Yorkshire.
It was quite old-fashioned, yeah. I was brought up in the 80s, and it was quite. It was more like the 60s or something. They were bikers, so they had old BSAs, and they used to go to bike rallies and take me with them, and I had a little leather waistcoat, and I used to collect all the biker badges. But we didn't have any central heating, and we had a coal fire, and no telephone, no TV, and I remember the winters with all the ice and the milk used to push the silver top above the bottle of milk, and so I never had a break. Shit. Apparently.
Yeah.
And then there's loads more shit as well, 10 times more shit. But none of it really happened. And there is still kind of like that patterning. It's there sometimes, you know. Sometimes when I think about men, I kind of think, is it because I want my daddy, you know? Because he went away. There's all those things, all those patterns are there.
Yeah.
And that stays because the body mind holds on to trauma.
Yeah.
And if you think about something from the past, quite often the breath will stop or there'll be a tension. So, I don't know. Sometimes I think things like EFT, you know, sometimes that might apparently release trauma from the body. But I don't know. I don't believe in anything.
Did you ever have ambition?
Ambition, yeah. When I was a kid.
Do you have ambition now?
Now, no.
But you had ambition before.
No, sometimes there's kind of a thought here that I kind of miss being ambitious.
Right.
But when I was a kid, I wanted to be a singer. From a very young age, I wanted to be a pop star. I wanted to be a singer. Yeah.
You've got a good voice, haven't you? I heard something on YouTube. I heard you sing this.
The last one's really good.
Where was it?
Wild Horses.
Wild
Yeah,
Horses.
yeah, it's really
Yeah. So yeah, shit childhood, apparently. But all that's left of that is apparent memories and sometimes a slight tension if a memory comes up. So it doesn't really exist.
Yeah, I think one of...
But there's still, like now, there's a little bit of a kind of feeling of sadness. If someone says, what was your child, it kind of makes me feel sad because it was shit. But only apparently. Well, I would say before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, sweet fuck all.
Chop wood and get someone else to carry the water.
Yeah.
Well,
chop wood, carry water, get wrecked. I'll be so drunk I won't feel the cold.
Would you say you're more of a party person now than you was before?
No, because there isn't anybody here that is anything.
Well, I know, but you do mention going out and having a good time, drinking and stuff.
No, I think when I broadcast, that's the 2 times in the week that I have a glass of wine or 2. So people think, oh, she's always drinking wine, but it's the only time I do. And then I'm here and we're being convivial, so I'm having a glass of wine. But most of my apparent time, I'm very peaceful. I don't really do anything. I spend most of my time alone. I'm a very alone person. I don't speak for most of the week because of the autistic thing. I prefer not to speak. And actually the most time that I ever speak is when I talk about non-duality, which is quite bizarre. So and I kind of probably come across as quite confident and funny and all those things, but most of the time I'm very, very, very silent and quiet.
We don't see that.
No. So that
when you
again,
say you're shy, I find it difficult to believe that.
Yeah, I am
some
shy.
Of the stuff you do.
Yeah.
I think, how can this person?
But you got to think that when I'm on a broadcast, I'm completely alone. There's no one else there.
Well, it was the other day. Because you had your feet massaged.
Then I was with my boyfriend, who I know very well. So it's different.
Is your boyfriend into this?
No.
No?
He's into me.
more than they say.
What are they?
They're not like the regular flavours. They're like a cream and strawberry one.
I think I'm okay. Thank you. Exceedingly good.
Exceedingly good, yes.
Got it.
I can hear what you're talking about.
Yeah, the Trump movement.
What are they saying, darling?
We're talking about Trump,
It
I think.
just shakes up the establishment and he's himself.
Great, freaking amazing.
Jeez, we're surrounded by fucking Trumpers.
Yeah, but why? What's he done that's so
If I was an American, I would vote yes.
You see, I can do
Are you
People are always shocked
a
to find
Brexiter?
that, oh, but that's obviously all in the story.
But it's only
That's how this character,
yeah.
you know, and now I'm sounding like, but none of it matters. Doesn't matter.
You're going to edit this, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't think that should go on YouTube.
It will be very inflammatory.
We could do another video
It
about
will be
it,
inflammatory.
but I don't want.
Speaking
Yeah,
like that, sure.
I say about that whole
no.